What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review and an unboxing of a new release by MVD Entertainment. It is Swamp Thing 4K, baby. Let's get into it. So yeah, Swamp Thing is getting released on the 8th of this month. We'll get into more of those details later. I'm going to do sort of a spoiler-free review of this movie, and then we'll work into the ingredients on this release and what I thought about this release. It's a 4K release that just came out with a slipcover. I think there's going to be two different versions, one with and without this, so we'll get to that in a little bit. So just bear with me and skip to the end if you want to check out the unboxing. But for now, I'm going to do sort of a spoiler-free review of the movie that Wes Craven directed. You heard that right. So let's get into it. So Swamp Thing is a movie that is basically about a character from the DC universe where a doctor, sort of scientist guy who is working in a swamp meets up with this government agent who's played by Adrian Barbeau. Ray Wise is this character Alec, who is studying this chemical in the swamp area, and he's starting to find all these like wonderful weird properties that are in the swamp. And of course, while they are researching all these wonderful new properties, some sort of darker scientist who wants to go after them, a arcane character, is basically trying to get the chemical agent to start his own nefarious plans. When things go awry, the scientist, Alec, played by Ray Wise, gets the solution spilled on him, catches fire, and dives into the swamp, activating and making the Swamp Thing, a superhero that is made of the swamp and can regenerate and has magnificent powers. So yeah, this is a story that is not something I read a lot when I was a kid, but I did read a few comic books, and it has a really huge like bad guy list. You know, like there was a lot of creatures and guys that would fight against Swamp Thing in this, whether they were creatures, humans that just wanted the power. Like there was a lot of different stories going on in Swamp Thing. I have never read any of those to the degree in which I would know a whole lot about them, but I'm just sort of giving you the gist of the idea. This is a budget movie that was written and directed by Wes Craven. He did not have a lot of money. When he wrote this, they were going to give it a lot more money than they did, but this is in 1982. This is long before, well, shortly before A Nightmare on Elm Street came out and became a huge success. But Wes Craven had done Last House on the Left, Deadly Blessing. He also did The Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2 before this release got out, which Adrian Barbeau was asked to do this movie, and she at the time was seeing John Carpenter, who was like, yeah, go see that guy. He's doing a Swamp Thing movie? Let's go. So she jumped on right away because, you know, obviously Wes Craven, right? Anyway, story-wise, movie-wise, this is a little bit schlocky, a little bit cheesy, a little bit charming, and a whole lot of what the fuck is going on in a good way. I think this is a movie that is going to appeal to a lot of 80s fans. You know, it kind of feels like a TV movie, and, you know, it did play on TV quite a bit when I was a kid. So if you grew up and knew Swamp Thing, you probably watched a lot of TV shows like The Incredible Hulk and things like that. And, you know, we didn't have CGI, we didn't have all this wonderful effects and everything like that. So we had to kind of just stick to a very, you know, practical way. Moving on, the Swamp Thing moved into a sequel called The Return of the Swamp Thing, and then we did a TV show, and all of those starred Dick DeRock, who was the actual monster, the Swamp Thing, while Ray Wise was the actual doctor and the scientist in this movie. Anyway, so this story is kind of one where, you know, obviously Arcane, who is this bad guy, wants to get this chemical. He wants to get this power to be able to make creatures and, you know, whatever nefarious plans that he has to basically take over the world or wherever. And of course, this is where Adrienne Barbeau and the Swamp Thing have sort of a relationship. They met before, obviously, with Ray Wise's character, Alec, and then, you know, they're trying to fight against it. There's some baddies in this film that are played by characters you may know, like David Hess or Nicholas Worth, who have been famously, you know, bad guys in a lot of movies. David Hess was in The Last House on the Left, so obviously, you know, that's going to be a Wes Craven flick. You know, Nicholas Worth also, who's done just a numerous bad guy, you know, lackeys in a lot of different movies, including like Darkman, you know, which was a Sam Raimi movie, and he was in the sequels too, as I recall. But famous bad guy, also famous nice guy in real life. Louis Jourdan, who plays the actual bad guy, was Arcane in this. He actually was going through a death in his family when he was making this film, so he kind of stayed to himself during the making of this movie. He does a good performance as Arcane, obviously. It's fun. It's not exactly going to be for everyone, especially if you watch the new TV series that came out. Not the one that I was talking about in the 90s, but the one that just came out the past few years that was pretty violent and pretty awesome. It is going to be very different from the new show than this. You're going to expect a very TV level movie kind of feel to it from the 80s. It is a PG movie that the budget got cut to shit. Wes Craven's original idea got cut down. It was supposed to be this really big movie and he had all of it cut down. So it's going to be very different than what we see today. So just understand that going in. But yeah, it's pretty charming. If you're an 80s fan, this is a fun one to watch. You may remember seeing it on TV like I did as a kid. I always know the story, but I forget some of the moments in it. Like, we get a character, this kid called Jude in the movie, who is played by Reggie Batts, who a lot of people really love because of how Adrienne Barbeau's character Cable and Reggie kind of work up and team up to help Swamp Thing, and he's kind of an endearing character. And there is some practical effects and creatures and stuff. Not a lot of fucking gore or anything, but there is some boobs depending on which version of the film you watch, because this release actually has both the unrated and the rated theatrical sort of release, which was never meant to have breasts in it. The European release, however, was meant to. There's a couple of different scenes, not just with Adrienne Barbeau, but there's also a couple of scenes where Arcane is having like a party and there's a lot of nudity involved there. That's for the European market, but it's in here. And of course, your boy watched the unrated version. What kind of horror fan would I be if I didn't? But it's mostly just boobs. So, if that makes it, you want to pick this up, hey, there you go. It also has Harry Manfredini, his work on it, who did the Friday the 13th series, and boy, does it really ring true to that sound. It sounds exactly like a Friday the 13th movie in a lot of ways. I kept thinking to myself, this has got to be Harry. It's gotta be. And it was. So, obviously there's a lot of the sound there, but that's fine. He's done a lot of different work on a lot of different movies, and there are varying different types, but you can always kind of hear his style a little bit. This one has that kind of style that is very different from what I expected to hear from Wes Craven on rewatch here. Obviously you think of Wes Craven, you think, well, Freddy Krueger, but again, this is before Freddy Krueger, guys. So, but a lot of fans are going to be really happy about this release because it is a really good looking release, specifically for Swamp Thing. Some of the practical effects in this movie were very cheesy. They didn't really have a lot of money, so obviously you're going to see a lot of the flaws in this because the 4K really kind of lets you see a lot of those flaws. But overall, it's still a fun, schlocky, fun time to see a bunch of guys get thrown around by this swamp creature, him ripping apart cars and, just doing some wild wild shit in here. People mutating into creatures. You know, even if those creatures don't really look the greatest, they did the best they could. And, you know, the guy who worked on it, obviously, you know, he didn't have very much, but he did what he could with what they wanted. And, you know, he's a guy that's worked on like Return of the Living Dead later on. So give him some credit. But yeah, I would probably say this is like a 6.5 out of 10 a movie. I would really like to go see the Return of Swamp Thing now, because I haven't seen it in a while. It's just kind of got me in the spirit of want to watch it now. It is a fun movie, especially if you're the 80s fan. So if you want to pick it up, you know, I think it would be a safe bet if you like all things horror that is PG. You know, like that's a very specific crowd. So maybe it won't be for everybody, but for me, I enjoyed it. It's just a little different, that's all. But now let's talk about this release, shall we? Obviously, you get the slip cover here that I've kept the plastic on. This is obviously with the black case, 4K Ultra. There is no reversible cover, so it's just the regular cover with the original artwork on it right here that you can see. And you also get a poster with it, which everybody always loves, you know, with the original artwork on it. There's two different versions of this. If you get the limited edition version, I think you get a different poster than the other version that they're going to have. And I think while supplies last, you know, you can get that one. This one also has two, you know, both the Blu-ray and the 4K version. The Blu-ray has all the extras on it that I'll be talking about here, but the 4K does have all the commentary and everything on it that I'll be going over right now. So you're gonna get obvious 4K restoration, which is in HDR. You're gonna have both the theatrical PG version, like I mentioned, and the unrated international booby version for European audiences. It's in 185:1 aspect ratio and Dolby Vision HDR, and you're gonna get the DTS HD Master, which is 2.0 mono, Spanish mono. It seems like a lot of the places are doing the older movies in the DTS HD mono because it just sounds better. There are optional English subtitles if you want on there. We get audio commentary with writer-director Wes Craven, of course, who is moderated by Sean Clark, and that's on the theatrical and PG versions, so just so you know. We also get audio commentary with makeup effects artist William Munn, moderated by Michael Felsher. That's on the theatrical and PG version as well. Plus the mini poster, which I already showed you, the limited edition slipcover, which is the first pressing only, and then on the Blu-ray, where they're putting a lot of the extras in it because, you know, obviously there's only so much room on a 4K that you can fit the movie and the extras. So, you know, obviously the movie's on there as well in HD, 1080p, both the PG and unrated international. Also, you'll get the same audio commentaries as the 4K that are on the Blu-ray, only it's just on the Blu-ray as the PG version, you know, like other disc was. The same DTS Master 2.0 and Spanish mono, English subtitles. You'll also get a Tales from the Swamp. It's a remastered talk with actress Adrienne Barbeau that she talks a lot about kind of how the movie came about and how John Carpenter convinced her to work on it, and some of the characters and cast and what she thought of like getting nude and a lot of different fun things that she talks about. She's a real pleasure to watch and talk about these kind of things. So also Reggie Batts, who is playing Jude, talking about his whole experience with everybody on set, which was really fun and charming. You know, he just had a really good time. It seems like everybody on this movie had a very good time with working on the film. We also get the Swamp screen, which is designing the DC's main monster. It's a featurette. That's about 20 minutes. The Reggie one is about 13, and the Adrienne Barbeau is about 17. We also get From Krug to Comics, How the Mainstream Shaped a Radical Genre Voice featurette for about 17 minutes. You get posters and lobby cards in the photo gallery on the disc. There's photos from the film photo gallery as well, and William Munn's behind the scenes pictures, so he has documented a little bit of that, and the behind the scenes photos for Jeffrey Rail photo gallery and the theatrical HD trailer. So it's pretty jam-packed full of stuff here. I enjoyed most of the extras. The featurettes are really what I love the most, but you know, I did check out some of the stills. They all look beautiful, obviously, on the screen. But yeah, I thought it was a really good release. I really actually enjoyed this. I wasn't the biggest fan of the franchise or, you know, the two movies, but I always remember the second one a little bit more than this one, so it'll be interesting to check that one out again eventually, and maybe I'll do a review of it on here on the channel. But yeah, thank you, MVD, for sending this out to me. I really appreciate it. This is a fun release that I think if you're a fan of the movie, definitely need to pick it up. If not, maybe it might be something that you might want to check out. But yeah, the extras and everything in here, they are aplenty, and I think it definitely adds to the release here. This is their first 4K, I think, so because it has the #1 on the spine here. They do have some other ones coming out, like Ghoulies, which I think I'm going to be reviewing here. The first Ghoulies is coming to 4K, so but yeah, thank you so much for coming by, guys. Really appreciate your support. Hope you enjoy these kind of deep dives into these releases, because, you know, it's always good to know what's in them and what people think of them. Plus, you know, I get to talk about movies, which I absolutely love. So hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button and the bell notification so you know when I got a new video out. But other than that, thank you so much for coming by. And as always, long live the boys. Join us. Beyond